I call this story Attention to Detail, and here's why. In the summer of 2007, I took a position as production manager at our Oregon ceiling tile plant. Now the plant was running at below budgeted levels of performance, and I was determined to find out why that was, drive our performance back to budget, and then beyond. The plant had been built in 1990 using a culture of teamwork and helping one another to stay safe and productive. So I felt that we had a solid foundation to build from. Now, the first few weeks of my tenure as production manager, I spent most of my time on the factory floor in Gemba, speaking with and observing what technicians were doing while they were trying to get their work done in a safe and efficient manner. Technicians were very open. That culture of teamwork and helping shined through as they were explaining and showing me how things worked and what they felt was in their way of performing. And that was great, but our performance wasn't getting any better. I needed to know more. I needed to dive deeper. One day, walking around the plant, I noticed a series of clipboards at each operator station. And on the clipboard were papers entitled While Running Tasks. There were a series of things that were to be signed off on a shift-by-shift basis. The technicians told me that as teams, they had determined the critical tasks that should be done while the line is running in order to keep people safe, productive, and prevent future problems. Sounded great to me, but what I noticed was less than half of those tasks had actually been signed off on or initialed. And I knew that in the culture at the plant, nobody would sign off on something that they actually didn't do because that was a high discipline offense. So it was like stealing from the company. So that also gave me good pause to understand we had a solid foundation. But again, very few of those tasks were being signed off on. At the end of the week, I took all those sheets back with me to understand what percentage of those tasks weren't getting done. And it turned out less than 50%. Well, that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but then I wanted to know, did some of those tasks directly cause downtime? Turns out, on deeper study, I found that many of those tasks, when undone, led directly to downtime events. Now I knew what I had to do. Aligning with my 3 team managers who were responsible for each of the crews, we determined that we would create a plan to get us up to 100% compliance for while running tasks, that anything below 100% would be unacceptable, and we believed that performance would improve just by getting this work done. So now that we were rededicated to the idea of 100%, we needed to roll that out to the crew so they understood why it was so important and what our plan was. My team managers and I planned 24-hour crew meetings, meaning we were going to meet with each of the 3 crews on their time in the next 24 hours to explain our plan. 6:30 a.m., 3:30 p.m., and 10:30 p.m. Now, I kicked off each of the crew meetings, telling the teams how appreciative I was to be there with them and what a great environment it was to work in. I also expressed my concern about the fact that while running tasks, which they had deemed to be so critical, weren't getting done, and how, as a team, we've decided that anything less than 100% compliance would be unacceptable. Now, the crew looked a little worried about what that might mean to them. At that point, I handed off the meetings to each of the team managers who talked about the plan in real terms, meaning that from here on out, anything less than 100% compliance to while running tasks would be unacceptable. But the team managers would coach each technician so that they had the understanding and the time they needed to get that work done. If they needed extra help getting it done, they would provide assistance to them, even standing in for them, watching the line while they were doing while running tasks if necessary. Then, if we weren't able to get to 100%, if somebody missed tasks, we would initially coach them, but then if necessary, we would build in levels of discipline. Now the questions came fast and furious. Technicians were worried that we were out to fire them. We assured them that this was not our intent, but if people chose not to do the right thing, we would not be adverse to moving them up the discipline process. But this certainly wasn't our intent. Our intent was to keep them safe, productive, and compliant, and anything, again, less than 100% would be unacceptable. After the third week, we were at 90% compliance. There was a series of coachings done by team managers and myself, and even standing in for technicians so that they could complete tasks. So they knew we were serious. What was also happening was performance in the factory was improving. So we were starting to see a direct correlation between while running task completion and performance. By the end of the second month, we were at 97%. No one had been fired. There were a lot more coachings, but everyone now understood that we were serious, and performance again was going up. By the end of the third month, we were at 100% compliance. The plant was running better than people had remembered in recent memory, and we kept it that way for the next 2 years of my tenure there. The plant during that time hit productivity records for the company on various occasions, and the team truly understood how something as simple as attention to detail could make sustainable improvement. I hope this story provided you with some inspiration to revisit your own processes. I have a lot more I'd like to share. Head over to pi-partners.com to learn how I can help. And check back from time to time for more Kaizen stories.